reporting on the games you love by people who love to game. The MMO Reporter Network.
You're logging into your favorite game, grinding out some gear. A couple of points added to your stats, and you have a virtual beer. Max level is pretty cool, but I'll remind you here, my friend. These games are not about the goal, it's about the journey and not the end.
You're listening to MMO Reporter, brought to you by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook download at audibletrial.com/MMO Reporter. And by Doghouse Systems. Choose your weapon with Doghouse Systems.
Don't forget about your ults you need to cherish. Each and every little character you've got, no matter what level they're at. Don't forget about your
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of MMO Reporter. This is episode 180. I'm Chris and I'm joined by my favorite construction worker / MMO reporter, Mr. at MMO Bill himself. Hello, Bill.
Hello. I wish I was a construction worker because then it would probably go faster and look better at the end.
Yeah, and of course...
I'm an amateur at best. How about that?
Well, you know, I think better than that. And of course, the constructor of wonderful MMO content stories and all sorts of wonderful stuff about MMOs, Mr. Harry Hall. Hello, Harry.
I was wondering if you're going to call me the policeman or the Indian after Bill being the construction worker, but never mind that. Which I would be okay with, by the way. But, I do hear myself.
You're the
echo.
biker. I'm sorry, you're the biker.
I am.
You are.
I do not have the mustache yet, but I'll definitely work on that.
I DJ'd a wedding, and they loved YMCA last weekend. It was fun. It went well. Anyways.
There's nothing wrong with village people. Absolutely. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
You know what filled the dance floor? Sorry, total aside. You know what filled the dance floor? Living on a Prayer. That hasn't worked in I haven't played that at a wedding in years because it's just not all that. But they were into like those epic songs. And I'm not joking, during that song, there was the grandma of, I'm not joking, by the way, the grandma of the bride up on a chair with the devil horns up in the air singing Living on a Prayer. I'm not joking. It was epic and awesome.
Nice.
I have some very special embarrassing moments with that. I had to review Rock Band or one of those games. And Living on a Prayer was one of the songs, and I'm at home reviewing that game, so I'm trying out the songs, and I'm doing that, and I'm going full metal voice, and my girlfriend is just sitting downstairs watching TV or whatever, and I overestimated my reach, so I'm going. You gotta hold on, and I start to almost throw up because so my girlfriend here, you gotta hold. That's what she hears from downstairs. It wasn't my proudest moment as a singer, actually.
Oh, but that's you know what the hardest part of that song is? The key change when you're singing.
Yeah.
It's sneaky, isn't it? Because everyone thinks they can do it. I think even John Bon Jovi thought for a while, though, he could still do it.
His backup singers do it now. He sings a lower octave. Just want to say.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Anyways, back on track. MMO Reporter. Bill, what we got to get into what we've been doing in game because we got a really great discussion with Carrie about LOTRO coming up. So what have you been doing?
Well, here, let me keep it short for Carrie's sake. I played Guild Wars 2. That was it.
What did you do? Season 2?
No, actually, I logged in with the intention to do that, and I thought, I'm going to get started here, and I just got on a roll. On my level 80, I haven't quite done all of the world discovery yet. I had the Straits of Malachor and the area right before Or. I can't remember Cursed Shore. Excuse me. And I blitzed through those zones. I had a lot of fun. The whole mega server thing is still just awesome because there were people everywhere. People were doing events. It was really good. And then I finished it, and I was getting all ready for, I had a couple other zones that I had to finish off, a couple of hearts here or there and everything like that. And I finished the last zone, and I was so excited. And what the heck, I'm at 97%. There's like a handful of points of interest out there still that I have to do, a couple of skill points that I still have to do. And yeah, it's so frustrating now because it's like finding needles in a haystack to figure out what I haven't done yet.
Yeah.
So now that said, I did, after I got tired of hunting around for missing waypoints and everything like that, I went in. I actually checked out the new area that they opened up for the gates of Maguma, or whatever you want to call it, and it's a very neat area. It's a very vertical area. Like there's the points of interest and everything that you have to kind of capture through there are either way up in the air, or like there's no zone in the game that has such a big difference between the very top and the very bottom. It's actually kind of cool. And the zone changes too, like sandstorms roll in, and it's not just a graphical effect. Like the mobs change when a sandstorm rolls through, and different events spawn when the sandstorms are up and that kind of thing. And it's actually kind of a neat zone. It was a little frustrating to get started because I didn't really get all of the climbing mechanics, but it's once I got used to it, I actually kind of liked it. It's pretty cool. It almost seems like a beta zone. Like it's not, you can tell something is going to happen there that's big, but it's not there yet.
Interesting.
Cool. So I highly recommend checking it out, especially considering everyone who's got a Guild Wars 2 account can just log in and play, because
sounds very tempting.
No subscription. So
very
that was
tempting.
Pretty much it for me. How about you, Harry? What kind of excitement did you get up to?
Well, I'm playing Divinity Original Sin, which is a very traditional computer role-playing game in the vein of Baldur's Gate. And it is it's quite awesome. If you ever enjoyed those kinds of isometric top-down party-based, turn-based RPGs,
right?
And then this is really wonderful. It's a gorgeous game. It is well written. It has some very clever. What I like about these kinds of games is what I liked about the Elder Scrolls games is this feeling of a simulation, that the world is not just a setting, but there is interaction, and this has this. From the basic bits, from having a perception skill that allows you to see more items you can pick up, to exploding barrels in the battlefield that can actually harm both you and your allies, and change the story if you blow up a barrel and damage the guards you're supposed to protect, things like that, which I find fantastic. So it's made in Belgium, of all places. It's a very small studio who's making it, and it's there's just one little weird thing about the game. It has a conversation system, and you generate two characters to start out with, and they're source hunters, and they're fighting to battle evil magic, blah blah blah. But whenever you meet other characters in the world, you have a conversation, just like in the BioWare games, and you're not just selecting responses for one character, but for both of them, and that allows you to contradict them, to basically have an argument between the two characters. And if the argument is unresolved by the argument tree, the two characters have to play rock paper scissors to resolve which course of action is taken next. And this works fantastically if you're playing multiplayer, which it supports. So you can do this and role play your characters in. But if you're playing solo, you're basically it's almost like you have two action figures, and you go, I want to do this. No, I want to do this. No, I want to do this. And it feels a little bit silly to be contradicting yourself. So I generally just tend to agree with myself in game, and that speeds up the game considerably. But it's a really good game.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay, I'll go. What's the combat like in there? Like you mentioned, harkening back to Baldur's Gate. One of the things I loved about the Baldur's Gate games was that every combat turn was something that you could pause and plan out and really take like kind of almost like a chess move kind of strategy to.
Oh, you're gonna love this then, because it is fully turn-based. There is no action based combat. It's all action points and move distances that you can move for AP or use your skills, positioning, ranges, ranged attacks. It's much more akin to XCOM, for example, than to Baldur's Gate in that respect,
cool.
and goes back to games like Fallout, the original Fallout, and then Wasteland that's now in production.
Cool.
Oh, very cool. Adding it to my Steam wish list right now.
I think if this is something that tickles you, that it's really well done and it's well written. It has a nice script. There isn't that much voice acting. I think that's just the budget they're dealing with, but it's still well written. It's very well done. Did a lot of World Cup watching, obviously, and kind of frustrated that the team from the Netherlands didn't lose a single game and still wound up being third.
Yeah.
It's very weird. The only reason that we lost was a psychological battle in penalties, and I will not bore anybody here with football or soccer, whatever.
You know, I have to say this is the first World Cup where I've been paying attention since, you know, the round robins. I don't know if it's round robin, whatever they call the tournament part of it. The starting
round of 16, round of 8.
Right, the round of 16. Ever since the beginning, and I kind of had teams I was going for or not. It was really exciting. It was a lot of fun. So I really enjoyed it.
I'm absolutely not a sports guy. I couldn't care less. But every 2 years, when the national Dutch team plays in either the World Cup or the European Cup, I feel like a regular person. And I have these conversations that I imagine happen naturally to non-geeks all the time, where they're actually discussing the team or the big game from last night with random people in a bar or whatever. And I have those moments that I'm talking to my neighbors and I think, I understand what you're saying and you understand me. And this never happens. Because I'm watching E3 or the keynote from Steve Jobs or Google I.O. and I'm thinking, this is interesting. Nobody thinks that's interesting, apparently, in the real world. It doesn't work.
As someone who's a sports geek and a game geek, it's the whole World Cup events and pageantry is just a little bit different, I find, than any other sport. Doesn't matter what else you follow or anything like that. Just the community around, or the community level raise around the. Pardon me, not even the community. The nationalism around it all is really the word that I'm going for. There is just fever pitch. Like the only thing that really gets people as worked up about their country as the World Cup, I think, is basically a war, and the World Cup is definitely the preferable way to get that out there. So it's definitely a special thing. So it good. I mean, it's. You're seeing the best of sport there, Harry. If this is the only sport that you dive into, you've chosen well.
And I chose not to mention the war because Germany won.
The war.
I was happy that Germany won. I mean, I wouldn't have been if the Dutch were in the finals against them, but I was rooting for them. I thought they were the better team, and I have to remind everybody the Germans gave the Netherlands 12 points during the Eurovision Song Contest. So I thought we owed it to them to root for the Germans. Just saying. Talking about World War, I played Civilization 5 with my friends again, and I say friends quite wrongly in this case.
Not when you were done, in other words?
Well, they basically keep treating me like I'm this irresponsible warmongering liar. And I was that in the first 2 games, but I'm not now. And I feel that it's all. I think I know what Obama goes through after the Bush administration, with the big difference that I was also the Bush administration. I mean, the whole world hates me in Civ, and it's not for what I'm doing now. It's what I've done before, and I don't think it's fair. So I'm creating new cities called Friendship and Nice and Happy, and they think I'm trying too much and don't trust me, even though I've not done anything to harm them.
Yeah.
Even though I could, because I have the biggest army and full control of the United Nations. And still I behave well. So far.
Right.
Can't wait to get those nukes. And finally, and this is my main experience. Do either of you guys know the game Ingress?
No.
Nope.
Ingress is a big hit on the Android platform, and it is an MMO played in the real world. And we've seen these types of games before. It's location based, and what you do, there are two factions. You have the Resistance and you have the Enlightened. It's basically blue versus green, and
Not red
all
versus
around
blue?
your. Sorry?
Not red versus blue?
No, that would be.
No.
I imagine there would be some, not patent, but maybe some copyright
Okay,
around
just
that.
checking. Just checking, because.
It's really the colors are the most important thing. Anyway, it's you in every city, every location around the world, you have works of art and monuments and important buildings and landmarks. And in the lore of this game, these are portals that spew out this kind of mythical energy. And every team tries to capture as many portals as they can. And you basically have to go within 40 meters of this object to hack it and deploy sentry guns and upgrade it and defend it, and that way you color the map of your city or your village of whatever in the color of your team. And this game has been around for 2 years on Android, and it's finally come out on iOS, which allows me to play it. And they have this elaborate in-game lore with a YouTube video channel that tells the story of Ingress and about this exotic matter and this AI, and it's all. And you have several discussion groups on Google Plus, which I'm finally using because there is a reason for it in this game, people mad and angry about changes in the game, and so it's an actual MMO. People yelling at each other, saying the other team is playing unfair. It's wonderful to be back in an MMO again, and but it's so addictive because you're looking at your map on your PC and you say, oh, this portal is nearby and it's almost done. I can get it, and then you just I'll demonstrate with a small anecdote. Yesterday, I come home after going out for a bit to capture some portals. And my girlfriend looks at me kind of weird, like, well, where are you? I said, I just told you. I just went outside to grab that portal. I explained it to you. She said, you've been out for more than an hour. I said, was I? I had no idea. And it is MMO kind of time dilation. You just forget that you're walking, riding your bike, whatever. It is a very addictive exploration game with two factions. And if you have an iOS or a Android phone, it's not out on Windows Phone, but then again, what is? Please try out Ingress and choose the Enlightened, because that's the good team.
Now, the problem is, I think I might be the only person who has a smartphone in my entire town. But it skews a little bit towards the retired in my particular town. Am I going to have as much fun being in my tiny little town here? Am I going to be able to do stuff? Or am I just going to take over because I'm going to be a warlord?
You would be surprised, because I don't live in a very technically savvy town myself, and I was actually amazed at how many portals there were and how many people were actually actively playing. The best thing you can do is it's a free game. I didn't mention that. It is completely free. There are no premium options. There is no subscription. There is no microtransactions. It's just you download the game for free. You link it to your Google account, and then if you want to see if it's worth your while, you go to ingress.com/intel, and once you've got your account going, you can look at your direct area. It's basically an overlay for Google Maps, obviously, and you can see if there's anything to do in your area. And if it's completely blank and there's nothing there, then you won't be able to play.
Okay, I think I understand.
But it's a really cool experience, and there is communication. There is actually a chat channel. A friend of mine showed me that people actually cooperate. You have to cooperate. People are creating fields all across the globe by linking portals together. It's kind of Eve-like in its
Wow.
emergent gameplay. It's really cool. So, Ingress. And that brings me finally to the big question, because you are basically the the godfather of the MMO Reporter network.
Oh, crap.
And that means I'm kind of expecting or seeing a large list of games that you cover or know about. And I'm very curious which one of these or how many of these you're actually checked out and to report on for this week. So
Now,
I'm sitting back, getting some popcorn. Go ahead.
Before you go, I just want to help set the stage here a little bit more because Harry has obviously been doing his national duty and reveling in the World Cup trials of the Netherlands. I have been doing some dutiful work on my house here, trying to make it a safer and more lovely place for my family. And Chris, I know we're really relying on you, and I know it's been a tough couple of weeks for you in terms of games played and everything like that. But we're really relying on you to give us a varied and spiced flavor of a gaming medley and try to give us a really broad experience of kind of the gaming milieu, if you will. So no pressure or anything, but just try to dazzle us here a little bit, okay?
I played Wildstar.
And
I see.
I did dabble a little bit in Diablo 3, and I want to talk about World of Tanks Mobile, but yeah, I played a lot of Wildstar. I'm going to embarrass myself for a minute. I am going to... This is actually really bad. I'm going to log into my Raptor account here, and we're going to see exactly what my time in Wildstar was, because it's a little bit scary. But yeah, I played a lot of Wildstar, but I'm almost done my attunement. I'm almost beloved in with the Exiles, which is what I need for the next current step of. Holy crap! Sorry, I just saw my hours. Maybe I don't want to share. Should I share them? I don't know if I should.
You can't go holy crap and then hold out on us. That's not possible.
You've gone down the rabbit hole already, Chris. So.
Wow. Okay. But yeah, I've done my attunement. I've almost
the
done
hours,
my
Chris. The hours.
It's like 30 hours in Wildstar in the last week.
In a week? Sorry, in a week? Lock it down. In a week?
Oh my.
30 hours in 1 week.
Kind of, maybe.
Don't you have...
I guess that's better than 30 hours in a day.
How do you do that?
So I've been doing my dailies. And I've been doing...
yeah.
And I surpassed Lenore in hours played in Wildstar because he was ahead of me for a while. But I'm in that raiding guild, right? So my Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday nights are doing groups as we try to get through attunement. And this is something that attunement really hasn't been seen in play in a AAA MMO since WoW. It kind of fell out of favor. And it's back.
Yeah,
so what
reason.
attunement is, for those of you who don't know, is basically you have a bunch of tasks that you have to complete before you can go into raids. You have to kill some world bosses. You have to do a rep grind to get, the highest beloved with your particular faction, Exile or Dominion. Then you have to and what they do is they do ratings for your runs in your adventures, which are like Dungeons Light. And then in your dungeons, you have to get silver in all the adventures and all the dungeons. So, that could be optional objectives that you have to complete. Most of them have time limits as well for the dungeons to get that silver, as well as optional objectives. So it means that you can't just finish the dungeon. You have to finish the dungeon well. And the reason for that, in an interview with Jeremy Gaffney, he said it's basically to make sure that everybody goes into raids knowing what they're doing, because Wildstar is not your typical MMO. You can't just go in. You have to have that muscle memory almost to be able to go through, to dodge the telegraphs, to get into the healing telegraphs, to watch the mechanics for the fights. And that's what the attunement does. It trains you to do it. I don't necessarily agree with that, but I can see why they went that route with this particular game. I think they have a more valid argument to do this than, say, Elder Scrolls Online or Terra would have to do that, right? So
but they've been saying this for every game. I mean, World of Warcraft's excuse for making you go through all the content was you have to learn how to play the game until you get to the level cap, and an entirely new game starts.
But that,
so it's always been kind of this excuse of making people jump through hoops. It's elongating the game. That's what they're doing.
I don't feel that a whole new game started once I hit level 50. I think that the game that I was playing from 1 till 50, it is the same. I'm doing the same stuff that I was doing. I'm just doing it on a grander scale, right? So, yeah. So you can agree or disagree. I don't necessarily agree with attunement. I could happily be doing without it, but do I think I will be a better raider going into it, having to have done all those adventures and dungeons? The world boss and the rep grind, all that stuff, that's just crap. That's filler. That's time sinks. The dungeons and the adventures, I could understand that, but still, I think I'll be better, but I could do without it. I also played Diablo 3 a little bit with my Crusader. I'm totally giving up any stat boosts for plus XP boosts. I do not take a new piece of gear on my character unless it gives me a better plus experience boost than the previous piece of gear. And I'm still doing really well. I've only died once or twice. I'm on hard. I can't do Nightmare yet. I haven't completed enough of the game yet. But my Crusader's fun. It's really enjoyable. I hope that when I get up to completing all the story stuff, Bill and I can do some, what's it called, adventures? No. What's it called, the adventuring stuff where you go off and do the specific little bits, Bill?
Oh, shoot, I can't remember. But yeah, it's essentially like doing your dailies in Diablo.
Yeah. I hope that we can do some of that together once I get up high enough level. You're what, level 70 now?
In the 70s there. I actually haven't even logged into Diablo. I forget. It's been that long since I logged into Diablo.
All right. And the last thing I wanted to mention, which is actually really, really cool and quite surprised me, to be blunt, I've been playing World of Tanks, the mobile edition. And I am amazed at how well Wargaming was able to transfer the World of Tanks experience. And most, World of Warplanes has this, they're basically the same games with different, the same, how can I word this? They are the same overlay of metagame on a different game mechanic and gameplay, right? The metagame of getting experience, getting better gear for your planes, and then getting better planes or tanks is the same across the other games, and I'm sure it's going to be the same with World of Warships, right? We all know what that's like, right, Bill and Harry?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, so that sort of thing, and they've transferred that over, and the controls are really good. I feel like I'm playing World of Tanks, and I'm surprised at how often I find myself with, a spare 5-10 minutes, and I jump in and do a couple of battles. And it's battles are popping real quick. It's still a fairly new game, and it is really, really enjoyable. I didn't think that I would be able to get that good of an experience. I don't think they could do the same for World of Warplanes because of the more complex controls that you need for a plane. But man, they sure nailed it for World of Tanks. If you like World of Tanks, you should really, and you have an iPad, one of the newer-ish generations, you should really try this. Bill, I know you went in there. Is this, something that you'd like to sit down on your deck and battle a few tank battles with?
I think I could. And I don't know. Here's the issue. In general, I found tablet gaming to be a little bit wanting. I'm curious to try Ingress. I actually installed it on my phone while we were recording here, but I'm a little bit more curious about the notion of getting like something like a Surface Pro or something like that, and putting Steam on there and play and do that Steam casting thing where you can play your games off your main machine while you're outside sitting on the deck or something like that. I mean, I think if that's what I'm going to do, if that's the goal, is that I'm going to sit there and breathe the outside and everything like that. I'm probably going to want to play my Steam library before I play stuff on my tablet.
Oh, but this is a game that got it right. Like, I do that with my little laptop that's got no guts to it whatsoever. I stream Wildstar to it, in fact, and I can do that, and I do it all the time. And it works really, really well. Way better than running anything on my computer itself, running through the graphics card that I've got there. And I'm wonderfully surprised at how well that's working. But I don't feel the need to load up World of Tanks on my computer and then stream it to my laptop and go outside. I can just do that on my tablet, and I've got equally as good of an experience as I will ever get in from my experience on my PC. So it's really, really cool. I don't know whether or not you could link the two accounts. I know you can link your accounts. I know it's all your wargaming.net account that you use, but I don't know whether or not your experience in the tablet game transfers over to the PC game. That would be really cool if you could just hop on and, yes, you'd have to play in different maps because you don't have the same controllability that you would on your PC on a tablet. But hey, if you could bring over all of your experience, your tanks, and just play on the mobile version, damn, that'd be great. So I'll have to look into that. So there you go. That's what has been keeping us busy. I can't recommend World of Tanks enough. It was really cool. All right, so we're going to move on now to our news. So let's move things along. And we're back into the news, and we have a special guest with us here today, none other than my favorite LOTRO podcaster who wears some sort of clothing on the bottom half of her body. Carrie, hello. And anyone who doesn't listen to LOTRO Reporter or MMO totally doesn't understand that. But hi, Carrie.
Hello, how are you?
So we've got some pretty big news coming out of the LOTRO world today. LOTRO Update 14 has dropped. The Paths of the Dead. Yes. Okay, that was horrible, but whatever.
I was like, are you okay, Chris? You sound a bit sick.
Yeah. Can you tell us what this update is all about? What are our LOTRO players, former LOTRO players, or first-time LOTRO players who go through this going to see?
Gondor. We actually...
Whoa. We're in Gondor?
In a video game, made it to West Gondor. That never happens.
West Gondor. Is that like West Philadelphia? Where someone could be born and raised?
It might be, yeah. They like swans out that way a lot.
Not basketball?
Just a reminder, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air doesn't take place in Philadelphia.
No, but in West Philadelphia, born and raised on the playground is where I spent most of my days. Come on, finish
relax and Max and
Thank you.
Never mind. Go, wait. Get out of my mind.
So Gondor, West Gondor.
Yeah,
okay.
Western
no
Gondor.
Playgrounds, no basketball.
We do get to go through the Paths of the Dead. It is appropriately creepy.
Cool.
Yeah.
And we have
Is it the new kind of creepy? Is the new kind of creepy, or is it the old kind of creepy? Because they had some, the Barrow Downs were suitably ghosty and stuff. Or is this the new?
It's Barrow Downs creepy. Yeah. Yeah. If you ever wanted to just stand there and stare at the castle city that was in the walls of the cavern, it's there for you to look at.
Oh, cool.
As well as some leftover guys who decided not to follow Aragorn out.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
That sounds like a contrived version reasons for fights in the Paths of the Dead.
Might be, yes, a little bit. I was very, very glad when I followed Sapiens through there that I was on a you can't kill me character, because they kept dive bombing our heads.
Oh.
Contrived in MMO?
I know. Wow.
Just a little bit. Then
Yeah.
Well, it sure beats the heck out of walking through the paths of the dead and have squirrels there or something.
But they'd be
Yeah,
skeleton
rats.
squirrels. Or skeleton
Would
rats.
would the skeleton squirrels really have been cursed because they defied their king in the
Hey, you don't mess with the Squirrel King. I'm sorry. You might, but I sure don't. All right, Carrie, can you
Big
explain to us...
fuzzy- Never mind.
I feel like there's a song there.
Before we get into this, I'm actually curious about some of the features here.
Oh, I thought you were saying you're curious about the Squirrel King.
Well, I am. I'm intrigued by an evil, menacing, fuzzy little.
Okay, we need some fan art for
That
that.
would be the rabbit from Monty Python as the evil, menacing, fuzzy little thing.
That's no ordinary squirrel. Okay.
Harry wants to know about some game systems. Talk to us about Essence. What the bleep is Essence?
It's slotted. It is basically slotted gear. That's
Oh.
what it is. It's going to be slotted gear and weapons.
So there'll be other drops that drop that you'll then slot into that gear to customize
Yes.
the gear
To
with specific
customize it as
stats.
you would like to do it, so that they don't have to try to guess how you want your gear customized.
So you'll get medium armor that drops, and a warden might drop agility in that medium gear.
Yeah.
And
Or might, or whatever
Or
they want
might,
to spec
yeah.
for. Yep.
okay, cool.
It's going to be pretty rare right now. It's for levels. I think they said level 50 and above at this point. Maybe it's level 95. Maybe it's level like 90 and above. But it's going to be pretty rare. They're trying to do a soft launch to see exactly how it's going to work, and they don't want to flood the market. They're hoping for another kind of gold sync kind of thing as well.
Mm-hmm.
Is this going to be like legendary weapons without the leveling, or
Yeah,
It's going to be
another thing.
the WoW gem system and Wildstar runes and all those sorts of things. I don't think Guild Wars 2 has anything similar, does it? You don't
Oh yeah,
slot-
they do.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
runes.
Yeah.
Oh right,
Yeah,
runes.
Yep.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, of course.
Yeah, it's exactly like that. Your headpieces will have something. Your weapon might have something, so you can customize your character as you'd like to have the stuff you'd like on it.
So then will most of the gear be blander as a result to allow for that customization? Like will it have less stat bonuses
Yes,
to it?
yes.
Okay.
Yes. The essence gear is going to have the less stats on it.
Okay. All right. That sounds interesting. A little pause
Sounds-
there.
Yeah. I
Sounds
thought
like
you were going to ask
something
me
they
if the gear was bland itself, and I've seen complaints about. Yes,
Oh.
it is.
There you go. Hey, Harry, you were trying to say something.
Oh, it's just why did it take them 7 years to get to this? And I'm curious. Can you actually slot stuff in your legendary weapon as well?
No,
That's
it's
the
going
one
to be the
thing that I'm
legendary.
No, but they're going to talk. We'll
Weapons.
talk about legendary weapons in a bit.
Yeah.
Because that's coming up
Yeah.
a little bit later on.
Yeah,
from
the allies are
producer's
not
letter.
changing. No, it's just the gear part. I'm sorry, I
Yeah.
did misspoke.
Okay.
Speak. Yeah.
Okay.
Though I do know that every once in a while you will find a non-legendary weapon out there at the higher levels, and maybe that will have essence slots on it. I don't know. Haven't heard them say one way or the other.
I never ever understand why they ever will put a non-legendary spear or javelin for wardens, for example, into the world, because I'm never going to use that because I want to level my legendaries.
Yeah, I
Right?
don't
It
understand
never
either.
ever, but it's
that
quite common.
so-called legendaries drop like rain? So it's
Right, but
I-
you'll hear something about that in just a little bit. I read that producer's letters as well. Okay, what about the level cap? Are they
Okay.
doing anything for that?
Yep, you're going up from 95 to 100.
Oh, hey.
Oh crap!
Yeah.
How far
And
behind
then
are you now, Harry?
Then at level 100, you get a call to come to the City Watch of Dol Amroth, which is
Ooh, that
basically
sounds really
Hytbolt 2.0.
Oh, crap. I was just going
I
to say
actually
that
kinda
sounds
like-
really interesting, but
I actually
it
kind of like
actually-
the
Go ahead, Bill.
Hytbolt thing. It was actually something to work forward to, or to work towards at the end game back in.
So are you building up the Dol Amroth? Are you having different things that you can build up like you did for Hytbolt, or is it just questing that's similar?
You are building up reputation with 8 different districts in the city.
Okay, and what do you
And
see?
they won't
anything
let
visual?
you into the certain districts to
okay.
do certain things until you have certain rep with others to get in those districts.
So why would I want to do that? What's available in those areas?
That's
Well,
the
you
only thing to
don't.
do at endgame.
Because it's endgame. Okay, now other than the contrived version, the in-game, like what carrot on a stick have they given you for grinding out all that rep and all those quests?
Rep that it's the usual. They haven't given us any particular exciting. They didn't do that with Hytbolt either. You got good gear.
Yeah.
They may give you essences. They may give you some LIs, but I haven't seen anything particular about the end game gear or anything like that.
Okay.
Like Hytbolt had the armor.
Yeah.
What I don't understand is LOTRO is so clearly a raiding game at endgame. Why didn't they go in that direction?
Yeah, that super large contingent of raiders out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about that. Yeah.
Well, you must make them happy.
Did you hear us? Yeah. Did you hear Lena and I's discussion about that?
No, not yet.
I haven't. No, I'm sorry. I haven't.
You should listen to last week's show. It was actually pretty interesting.
Carrie, you're also a very popular person in game. Have they done anything for you socialites in game that like to have that big social net?
Yes, they have. They have increased the friends list, and we assume the ignore list to 100.
Oh, cool.
Was there a limit to your friends list? I've never reached.
Yes, there was a limit to the friends list, and it was. Yes, there was, and it was not
Go
large.
for the easy one on Harry.
I feel so sad that I just never. I never ran into that limit.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I can just see a whole generation of LOTRO players saying, "Oh, I didn't know there was a limit," and the self-esteem drops 8 points.
Yeah, I didn't know there was a limit either.
Oh man.
And then if you didn't know how to join the Global Looking for Fellowship group, they've made a world channel finally.
Wow. Wait. What? They.
This is what 7-8 years in.
8 years in, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh God! I played on Laurelin, the roleplay server, and there were obviously homemade world channels that everybody joined, and 60% of every world channel, if it was global trade or global everybody was looking for a group. And the other 60-70% of players was complaining about people looking for a group in a channel that wasn't designated. Where will those people go? I mean, that whole discussion will just end.
No, they should have just called it New World's quotations Baron Chat.
Yeah, I haven't turned it off yet on Brandywine. It's probably, but I haven't looked at it much yet. It probably won't last more than a night.
All right, now this sounds very expansionish. What's this going to cost us?
It's only going to cost you 795 turbine points, which is about $10, giving exchange rates if you assume a turbine point costs 100 turbine points are worth about $1.
And is that for everyone?
That is for the free and premium players. If you are a VIP or have a lifetime account, that is free for you to come and see.
Oh, cool. So, wow. This is well, based on previous expansions, this almost sounds like a whole new... This is basically what we got with Rohan. Except it's less zones.
Yeah, it's a little less geographic area. Speaking of the geographic area, it is amazingly beautiful.
Oh, cool.
They have done an amazing job on the cities, and they ported me into Del Amroth, and I literally was breathless. It's a really, really pretty city. Lots of light, airy feeling with stuff. The ocean is really cool looking. They've got ships that kind of go out and in on a schedule. It looks like a working port. The Corsairs look like Corsairs. They like purple. It's odd. Curved swords. They've got new, so there's new enemy, looks and things like that.
Cool. That sounds really, really exciting. Now, along with this, there was a producer's letter by Aaron Rowan Campbell that came out.
Yes.
A few points that we've highlighted here. Can you tell us a little bit about, because they were talking earlier about having the Beornings start at level 50, sort of be like a legendary class.
Right.
What can you tell us about that now?
They have decided to make them to start at level 1.
Oh, wow.
Not so sure I'm super excited about leveling a Beorning to level 95. I have many, many characters that have been stuck in the mid to low 20s for a very long time.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I would ever be able to make a character like that from 1 to 95.
Now,
Well, especially now that you have to go to 100.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, or 100 at that point, yep.
And Bill, putting your own feelings about it aside, I'll ask you about that in a second. Thinking about the typical LOTRO player, and what we've seen in our experience about people who play LOTRO, do you think that a bigger part of the player base would be interested in getting that experience of going through the Shire or wherever on a Beorning and being able to go through that on that character, or do you think they'd want to get that level bump and start at 50?
I think a huge chunk would rather start at 50. I'm imagining a section of the population that hasn't seen the Shire in several years now, and because all they've done is hang around in in-game content or near in-game content and that kind of thing, and that it might be a novelty to go through. But I think this is going to be a big problem for people. Like the thought of going through 100 levels, even though they've accelerated it now, you can get experience accelerators and that kind of thing are a lot easier to come across now. That's just a whole lot of leveling, and I don't know if I could do it again. I might, but it just feels like a huge mountain to climb.
And for those people who don't remember, Carrie, can you tell us what role in the game Beornings play? Are they going to be like tank and DPS, or are they going to be healers? What are they going to be?
They're not really sure yet. They're not giving us a whole lot of information on what they're going to do. It sounds like it's going to be more like a control, as near as I can tell. And then there may be a tank spec, because they talk about building up rage and then burning rage,
right,
and then releasing rage. And there are a couple of different specs they've talked about. One for sure is a tank, and the other, I think, is more of a control.
Okay.
They are getting their own starting area, so they won't be going through the Shire as a Beorning, unless, I guess, if you really, really, really wanted to do the Shire again.
Well, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, so basically you're going to be seeing Bree and onward.
Well, but by starting area, do we really think it's going to be like what? You get 15 levels out of the Shire, is it, or so?
Yeah, you get 10 to 15,
yeah. So,
10.
I mean, are we thinking that they're going to go that far and build that? Because there's no way they're going to be able to, at this point in the game's development. The Shire was developed for launch. It was developed to hook people at launch. So a lot of work went into that. It's hard for me, and maybe Harry can pipe in here when I'm done, hard for me to see how they would spend enough time to make as intricate of a zone as the Shire and as expansive of a zone as the Shire, instead of giving us a quick tutorial, first 5 levels, and then dump us somewhere area. Harry, what do you think?
I agree, and I would have expected, if they are going to start with level 1, I would have expected something like the panda mechanic in World of Warcraft, where you have this special path of accelerated experience by visiting this shrine in the game, which helps you get up to speed much quicker than if you would just go through all the content.
Right.
So I really would like Turbine to rethink their strategy and allow people, if they so choose, to accelerate their Beornings at least up and through Moria at a very high clip.
Yeah, I could start after Moria. I'd be okay with that.
Well, don't forget, they have that lovely Gift of the Valor that will take you from 1 to 50 with no...
That's pre Moria. I want post Moria.
Yeah. Well, Moria's better than it was. Moria, I've been through there since the revamp, and it's pretty quick. I think you could get yourself from level 1 to 10 in probably an hour and a half if you go slow like me. So go through a quick area, get yourself to level 10, and then you'll get sent to Bree.
Okay. All right. Next bit here. What was the next point that he made in his letter?
That they have decided not to do the second level cap this year. They were going to take us from 95 to 100 with update 14, and then they were going to take us from 100 to 105 in update 15. And they've heard the players and decided not to do the second cap.
Oh, that's
raise.
good.
I really wish they would just keep the cap fixed now at 100 forever. And find different ways of progressing the characters without making them go through hoops again.
Mm-hmm.
Well, is there any use of instance clusters or something like that? Because I can understand them not doing a raiding game, but doing dungeons is something I would love to see more of.
They do have some instanced content and some group content. One of the things that they specifically talked to us about with the Epic storyline was some of the instances you will actually have a choice to go through it solo or to go through it with a group. And the stuff in the instances, like the ferocity of the baddies and the bosses and things, as you choose to go through it with a group, is increases. This is pretty similar to, as far as I can tell, to what they've done when they made some of the original Epic storyline. They had to solo it down for people. Like if you wanted to do the quest that takes you up to the top of Weathertop, you have a choice of doing it with a group or doing it solo. And then, of course, there's some of the other ones where it's like, if you do decide to do it solo, here's your magic stone that makes you super strong, so you can do it by yourself.
God mode.
Right.
Yeah. They do have a 6-man area that you can kind of like Limlet Gorge that you can go and play in as a group and get quests and do stuff in that area. And then I do know there's a 3-man instance in Dol Amroth. One of the quest hubs in there gives you some group instances.
Okay, and
it's not really a bit slim pickings, but okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. They realize.
Go ahead,
I guess
Carrie.
3-mans are the most popular grouping size they have in LOTRO.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's easiest group to form.
Mm-hmm. All right, last one here, and I read this a few different times, and I can't help every time I read this that I feel like this is what allies should have been from the beginning.
First place.
But this is what we were hinting about earlier when Bill was asking questions about legendary items. Carrie, why don't you fill us in here?
All right, so at level 100, you'll be able to take your legendary item and specify it as an imbued, which means it's going to be locked in its current state, legacies, and abilities. So it's going to continue to grow with you, but you're not going to ever have to deconstruct it. For those of us who never get anything other than a 3rd age item, that's not too big of a deal to me. But for those of like Leonor who work their rears off to get this 3rd stage stuff, that's going to be like a big relief. Especially people was one of the reasons I think they decided not to do the 2nd tier of leveling, is people are like, you're giving us 5 levels, we're going to get our allies, and then we're going to just have to break them in 4 months for a level 105.
Right. And what about someone who brings up a favorite level 50 legendary item? Is this only going to work with level 100 legendary items, or is it going to be with any legendary item?
I'm going to say it's going to work at level 100. It says at level 100 you'll be able to... This is coming in the future. This is not an update 14.
Right.
So I'm sure there will be much feedback and discussion on the forums and with people about what this should look like.
Right.
I have a suggestion. Why don't we call all those weapons just items, and the ones at level 100, if they are locked, legendary items?
There we go.
Okay.
Because it's not legendary if you're basically grinding 50 to 60 allies to dust during the course of a normal week just to get your stuff up.
They could be heroic items.
No,
Instead of
there's nothing
legendary.
here. I've had cigarette lighters that lasted longer. Okay, granted, I don't smoke, but a pipe. But that's different. Do they finally add stuff to this? The first promise they made was a weapon that grows with you and provides you with specialized quests that are linked to your weapon, which is something I would have loved to have seen. For example, that you had to travel somewhere into the world at a certain point because your weapon says so.
Right.
They had this plan of quests coming from your weapon as a quest giver. Is that now in there? I'm guessing no, but
No, I don't think there are any
letter,
sentient weapons in LOTRO yet.
Yeah. So last question here, Carrie. Have you noticed in the community at all any change since sort of Aaron came back and Kate has moved on to another position within Warner Brothers, within Turbine. Is it still within Turbine? I know her desk is right across from Aaron still, but is she up in Warner Brothers ranks now? But anyways,
I don't know. I have not heard where she is.
Any change in the company? Not in the company, in the community since Rowan came back? Is it a positive thing? Is it a negligible thing? Is it whatever?
I get a little bit of more of a sense of hope that people are being listened to. Mm-hmm. But I'm not sure if that is from Rowan being back, or if that's because we're getting 2 or 3 times a week, actual almost face-to-face time with these Tahiti runs and these shield runs that Sapiens puts on.
Yeah.
And that people get to ask questions. It's often the same questions, but they get to ask questions and get answers. Yeah. And I feel things have changed a bit in that they have decided to tell us no if it's no.
Right.
Like instant clusters. You're not going to get a 12-man raid anytime soon. We're sorry.
Yeah.
This is the way it is. That, I think, is helping. And then you do get the sense that they are listening a little more.
Right. Well, that's good. Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Carrie, for coming out and explaining all this stuff from us. I know that none of us would have been able to do as good of a job explaining all this. Do you want to mention that you mentioned a video that you ran through an update with Sapiens and with a few other people on the call as well, and that's up on our YouTube page. We'll link it in the show notes, and there's lots of goodies on there, right?
Oh yes. There's me getting smashed by a large troll, but there's also like nice shots of the beacons of the beacons are lit, and you can see 3 of them at a time. And some of the old Gondorian cities and some of the past of the dead. So some great stuff to see.
That's really, really cool. It sounds like that was a really fun experience for you. So yeah, we'll link it here. And thanks for coming out and explaining all this stuff to us.
It was a pleasure, and I'm sure Steve will have my coffee for me in a minute.
Yeah, of course.
All right.
Quick, let me end the call here.
All right, okay.
Thanks again, Carrie. We're going to move on now to the next story. What? No more League of Legends skin codes? This is something that's been happening for all the PAXs that I know of. I've come back from every PAX with a few, at least, League of Legends skin codes that I gave out to people over Twitter and stuff like that. And this is something that League of Legends was doing at all sorts of different events and different prizes and stuff like that. They'd give away these skins, different costumes basically for the heroes in League of Legends that you could put on, and they were sometimes quite rare. So yes, you could be playing the same hero as somebody else, but you'd have a completely different look. And this was something that League of Legends players coveted quite a bit. So the resale market was quite strong. I never sold any, but I sure gave them away quick. But the problem with having such a strong resale market was that there was an overwhelming amount of scamming going on, and people were saying that they had codes, people would pay for them, and then never receive the codes. So League of Legends has decided, as of today, no more skin codes. If you got one legitimately, you're going to have to contact support to get it applied. This is a pretty big hammer that they're swinging, Harry. What do you think about their response to skin code scamming?
Well, it's almost like the teacher saying, "I can wait all day," or taking away everybody's toys because 2 guys were fighting over it. It's kind of harsh, but then again, knowing the League of Legends community, they deserve everything they get. I'm not bitter about anything at all. I mean, no, I think it's great that they're cracking down on the whole scamming thing. I do hope they will find a solution to have it's nice to be able to give away treats like that and have people enjoy. If people enjoy them, there should be a way to make that possible without this. I hope they find a way around it.
Yeah, I hope so too. But I think they're done. Bill?
I have a sneaky feeling that the way around this that they're going to find is that the only way you can get skins is going to be through the in-game store or something that you buy specifically from or through League of Legends. That the side market is the real sin here that they're trying to clean up. It's not the scamming is just it feels like a smokescreen, and that the real thing is they're just looking for to create another market for themselves.
I disagree quite strongly. I don't think Riot is not hurting for cash. They don't, and this secondary market is not something that they would have gotten money from in the first place. This was things that they were doing to build their community, and unfortunately, this is one outlet to build their community that they're losing if it's gone forever. I don't think that they're going to make enough money to recoup the amount of work they're going to have to do to build community in other ways. Right? It's like giving away t-shirts at PAX, right? You get a whole bunch of people at your booth, and yeah, you 90% of those people don't look at anything, they just want the t-shirt, but you get that 10% that stick around, look, find out, maybe they're going to play your game. And while League of Legends has tons of people, and tons of crappy people, it can always be looking for more members of the community or keeping people in their community. Harry, what do you think? Is this a cash grab, or is this
I agree. I mean, they are one of the most successful gaming companies out there. I mean, they are what Blizzard used to be with World of Warcraft. They are in the MOBA space, most definitely. So I think this is a community thing, and I think I hope that their community atmosphere is high on their priority list, and you must agree that people abusing this and making free gifts more expensive, or basically something that elicits illegal acts, is also a dampener on the community spirit. I mean, if you have to be distrusting to your fellow players about things like that are supposed to be free treats, it also ruins the fun for everybody. So I'm with you, Chris. I don't think this is a cash grab. I think this is actual cleaning up of something that's grown out of proportion and ruining the fun for all.
And it's unfortunate that it's come to that. But you know what? I'd love to say that the League of Legends community is one that is wonderful and supportive, but it's kind of a cesspool.
It's not.
So I can't say I'm surprised. It's almost criminal how bad that community is.
What they could use is kind of a justice system simulator or something.
They've tried, but never really something awesome.
Yeah, but if you want that, you have to go to Arcade. Sorry, is it Arcade or Arcade?
Arcade.
Hard CH. Right, Arcade. It's a game.
It's
by
a game.
Trial.
Well, it's not by Tryon. It's by XL Games being westernized and putting out by blah blah blah. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Tryon is handling the Western release of they're publishing it, and that's the reason why I'm going to be quoting Mr. Scott Hartzman later on in this segment. Arcade, we've talked about this before. It is a open world sandbox experience, but then in a fantasy setting. And one of the most intriguing aspects of the game is their justice system, which allows people or makes people go on trial if they've committed crimes against members of their own faction, and random people from the player community from the same faction are appointed jury in this make-believe trial, and the jury can find the defendant guilty or not guilty, and if they're found guilty, sentence them from 4 minutes to 20 hours of prison time
in jail. They actually have jails.
They have an actual scary, well, not so scary, but actually a separated area, which is the jail, which you can try to escape from, and it's very intricate and a lot of fun. But one of the things they discovered, and this is where Scott Hartzman comes in. He's the guy from Tryon who's handling the PR at this point. He's the CEO, but he's talking about that the first thing that people did when they were found on trial is bribe the jury. And juries were okay with that, surprisingly. They didn't mind getting a lot of gold in game to let somebody off the hook who had just committed atrocious crimes. Which I find interesting, and Scott actually applauded, because this is something, what they want is emergent gameplay and player interaction, and this is a lot of fun. I still think there is a flaw in the system. My problem is that, as far as I understand it, if somebody commits a crime, they get crime points. And if they have enough crime points, they will, after they die, go to a trial. And they will be put on trial for the crimes they've committed.
Right.
That means they are guilty. There is no doubt that they are guilty.
Right.
Because the game system has put them on trial for a reason. Of course, bringing the innocent to trial would be unjust. But then again, there is no presumption of innocence. These people are bad. They should be stopped. They belong in jail.
But they're not.
But I seriously would love some reasonable doubt there. I would love to see some actual doubt in the jury's mind if somebody might actually be innocent.
You know what? Maybe they accrued their crime points by having, doing repercussion, or somebody attacked me and therefore I retaliated and I killed them, so I got crime points, and this kept on happening, and that's their defense. If that is the fact, then that would be awesome, because then there would be a legitimate. Right.
Also, legitimate gameplay, because then for a jury there would also be something to decide, rather than how much can we shake him down for.
Right.
Because now it's a mugging. Exactly. Now it's basically you committed the crime. Now we're going to shake you down.
Now, what if there was a mechanic in there that allowed you to take your crime points and kind of frame somebody else with them?
Yeah,
that's yeah.
See, that would be awesome. Now,
you could defend yourself by saying, I was offline at the time. I wasn't even here. I don't even know what you're talking about.
Now, this is, and Scott Hartzman's reaction is something that actually makes me happy for the sandbox future of this game, that is quite hands-off. Hey, if that's what they're going to do, that's what they're not hacking, right? They're not breaking the code of the game. They're just doing unintended things, and hey, if that's the way it is, that's the way it is in the game. We create the world, you create the fun.
But I guess the good thing about all that is that it also motivates people to actually get on the jury too. Like if I could see 6 months in or a year into Arcade that jury duty might be about as exciting as it is in real life. But if there's the opportunity that you, might either get to lay down some heavy-duty punitive results on somebody you don't like, or B, take home a fat bribe, it sounds like there's motivation there.
It does. It does.
I do see some serious, not problems, but challenges that Trion is going to set for itself. Because if this is the way they want their game to be run, which is basically very much like EVE Online is run, like we're building the systems, and as long as you're not exploiting the systems, do whatever the hell you want. That also colors the community, and there's going to be people trying to push those boundaries, and that will be a very interesting experiment to see how people will behave in a game that allows that much freedom. I mean, there's a reason that most games punish griefing, for example. What are they going to do with that in a game where they say, okay, a bribe is good? In another game, you could say this is basically ruining or getting around the system. So what do you guys think will this mean for the community and the type of player that's attracted to Arcade?
I think this is going to have a similar community to EVE, but in a fantasy setting, of people who are wanting that immersion. They want to live a world. They don't want to play a game, right?
I think it's something that it's going to lend itself to the people who really want to immerse themselves in a bit of chaos as well, like the kind of person who can jump in and take advantage of a weird situation, something that's maybe not inside your conventional play style or anything like that, and and either come out victorious or at least come out have a new experience. I mean, very clearly, I think if it just turns into a crazy gank fest that if you're not hanging around with 20 of your closest friends, you're just going to be dead in a couple of minutes anyway, that's going to self-correct because people will lose patience with that, I think, fairly quick. Or you'll just always be around 20 of your closest friends. So it'll be a fairly self-correcting thing. The big thing is going to be is if there's enough people in there to allow those kind of self-corrections to happen, or if it's going to the people who can't take the heat, so to speak, will just filter away, and then there will only be a very light skeleton of a player community left that's not enough to actually support the game.
Because I'm curious about that. I mean, how many people are interested in that? I am, certainly, but mostly on paper. Because I love the idea of games like this, but I can never commit to those for more than 2 months or something. EVE Online is a wonderful game, but after 2 or 3 months of playing it in a year, I'm definitely through, and I'm not going back until next year.
Yeah, and I've been thinking about Arcade. I'm really finding that it's very much an academic curiosity for me rather than a game that's super compelling. I'm really interested in Arcade mainly to see how it turns out rather than to actually jump in and play.
Yeah, and I wish I had enough. I wish I had enough time in my life to devote the amount of time that this game seems like it deserves to explore everything from its justice system to its crop system. It's its farming system to manning ships full of players, right? Players can man ships, and they're crewed by players and all that sort of stuff. There's just so much there that I want to experience. However, I know that for me personally, I like to play games. I like Wildstar over ESO because of that, because the game systems are better. I like things like Rift better than EVE and better than sort of even I'd say Lord of the Rings, because Lord of the Rings and EVE try to immerse you in a world, in an experience. I want to play a game, and I've been doing this long enough now that I know that. That being said, though, damn, I wish I had enough time that I could just spend 6 months in this and just live in there and see if it was fun or not.
Yeah, I'm really, really looking forward to talking about this game with you guys. I'm only meh on playing it. If I had to rank it in my top 10 right now of games that I actually were super keen to be playing, I don't know that it would make the top 10.
All right. Well, that's a
play.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. But before we get too Unchained here, Bill, why don't we move things along?
Speaking of games that are in my top 10 that I desperately want to play, Camelot Unchained made a little bit of news just today, actually. They made a reveal of the stat system that they're going to be using in-game, which is a little bit dry if you're not into mechanics or anything like that. But I mainly wanted to talk about it just because it gives a little bit of time to think about Camelot Unchained, which I'm really excited about playing. So to touch on the news story anyway, the stat system that they're putting in is they're trying to kind of go back in time to kind of a more traditional computer RPG type stat system. They've got what seems like a lot of stats. Like it's your typical strength, dexterity, vitality, et cetera, et cetera. I think it's about 10 primary stats that you can put points into, as well as some secondaries and other stuff like that. But what they're going for here is, and what they made a couple points about in the article that we're going to be sharing in the show notes, is that they're really trying to make sure that there's room for people to quote unquote, or not really to quote unquote, basically to screw up their build, to basically make non-optimized characters. That there's not going to be a forgiving thing where if you accidentally roll a warrior and put all your skill points into faith, if you've got a suboptimal warrior that can't tank for anything, then that's just kind of your problem, and they're going to let you go down that wildly different road, and they're not going to develop the game so that a faith warrior is necessarily a viable character class. And that kind of gets back, kind of makes me a little bit happy, because it brings back the kind of the class wars and the spec wars of Dark Age of Camelot, and that kind of thing, about how if you're not this type of scout, then you're no scout at all, or if you're not this type of infiltrator, you're not an infiltrator at all. So yeah, I'm ready to play Camelot Unchained now. That's all.
Yeah, okay, but here, I don't know. I still don't understand why, if it's such a PvP heavy game, why would anyone want to create a non-optimal build?
I think it's because I think there's going to be specialization. Like if you look through the stats or the primary stat list here, I'm not going to read all these off or anything like that. If people want to, they can follow the links. But basically, each stat is going to make you good at certain areas. So like there's like they have two stats for vitality and endurance. One is going to give you extra health, one is going to give you extra stamina. Some things are going to make you good at being fast, some things are going to make you good at being hard hitting, and that kind of thing. So where if you just go completely gonzo in, say, dexterity, you might not really hit very hard or anything like that, but you're going to have all kinds of defensive abilities and that kind of thing. So basically it's going to be you're going to be really good in certain situations. And I can tell you from again the old RVR days in Dark Age of Camelot, sometimes you want just a specialist. You want a guy who can have incredible damage from 2,000 yards away and hits like a wet noodle when someone's up close, and that's just the role that person is going to play. It's kind of like the holy trinity of damage, heals, tanking, except instead of a trinity, it's like 10 different options or 10 different roles, and they all interplay. I don't know. It's a curiosity to see how it all plays out. The other attribute for all this too that's going to be kind of interesting is that it's going to have kind of an Ultima Online type progression. So as you take your points and you put it into, or you're building your character is actually going to get good at the skills and the stats that you actually use. So if you're swinging your sword, you're amazingly enough getting better at swinging a sword. If you're casting spells, your character is going to become more proficient at casting spells. So there's I guess there's some forgiveness baked into it that way, in that your play style is ultimately going to lend itself to how your character develops. But I don't know. It's going to be really neat to see how it plays out. It does seem like they're really going back 10 years in the past and trying to pick out the good things of games back then that have maybe kind of fallen by the wayside in game development recently.
I've been trying to think, because all of this sounds really, really awesome, but I have absolutely no interest for this. And I don't know why. Like, I'm not trying to be a jerk, but I'm listening to you and all this, and I've looked into the game, and ever since the very beginning, it's just not something that hooked me, and I can't figure out why.
I think if I were to guess, I think it's because, and knowing you, Chris, because there's no PvE. Like, it's an all PvP game. All your progression, probably. Everything you do. Like I've kind of picked up over the years that you're not necessarily averse to PvP, but it's a side thing for you. It's like the French fries you have with your hamburger. It's if it's there, it's great, but if it's not, it's not the end of the world. And that's all Camelot Unchained is. You can't go run a dungeon, or you can't go kill mobs to get your next level or anything like that. You're out there fighting other players, or you're doing nothing. And
that's what surprises me about why you're so into it. Not because I'm surprised that you are, but looking, like when we play Rift, for example, you don't run to the PvP. When you've done Wildstar, you don't run to the PvP. You've done WoW in Guild Wars 2. I know that. I don't know about the PvP, but you know, you're not. That's not what you do in other games. So why this game?
I think it's because nothing has really reached out and grabbed me as far as that kind of player versus player play style as Dark Age of Camelot back in the day. Like, I feel like I experienced the best there was way too early in life, and there's nothing that's really there's nothing that's really been as fun. I can't even put any more words to it. I mean, it was complex, it was dynamic, there was surprises that could happen, it was very strategic, but it was still zergy and mobby, and you could kind of, in some ways you could kind of blend in and just help the team. In other ways you could actually be very effective by going out on your own or in small groups, and there was a role for everyone to play. And I don't know, I'm really hoping that this can kind of recreate that feel, and I'm hoping it's not all just nostalgia. I recognize that's a bit of a risk for me there, but yeah, I think that's just the way it is. I think Dark Age Camelot hit it well, and if this is the spiritual successor for it, then that's what's exciting me. How about you? You've been awfully quiet.
Sorry?
I was just going to say, Harry, you've been awfully quiet, or unusually quiet. I feel like you're just loading up for something here.
No, I'm listening because I know you are this is one of the games that did it for you, Dark Age of Camelot. So I'm fascinated to hear your opinion about this. What I'm hearing and when I'm reading about this game is that they're not compromising. It feels like they're actually very aware that this is a niche idea, and because of that, they have more freedom to do it the way they think it's perfect, rather than try to cater to the suits who want this game to appeal to everybody. I think that's cool. That this is this kind of game.
The big voice behind this game is Mark Jacobs, who was the one of the heads of Dark Age of Camelot development and everything like that, and he was at least partially involved from the whole EA acquisition and everything like that, and of Mythic and and that kind of thing. And I think that this is almost like a retaliation to the corporatization, if I can make that into a word, of Mythic and Dark Age of Camelot, and it just feels like he's just lashing back and saying, no, I'm making the game I want, and screw you.
But I do think that's also the risk. There's always a dark side to every argument. I think games benefit by taking into account more casual players or different play styles. I'm not saying that they should compromise, but having to take into account people who are not completely of the same mind as you, the creator, is, makes the game, I think, more playable and more robust. You don't want to make the game just for you, I think. So I hope it's welcoming enough for people who are intrigued by the idea but put off by the dangers that Dark Age has. Like, I don't want to invest 6 months before I have fun. I want to play and have fun.
Well, and we'll see how it shakes out. I think, like I said, I'm probably not even very cautiously. I'm actually optimistic about this. So,
cool.
I think it's going to be it's going to be a neat one. I can't wait for it to come out.
Awesome. All right, let's move things along here, move things to the end of the show. Just want to mention once again our Patreon campaign. We're going to be getting the rewards going for all of you pledges in the next few weeks. First week of August is when we'll get that, or second week of August is when we'll get that going. But check it out, patreon.com/MMO Reporter. It's a way for you to help support the network. Our biggest goal is $500, and that will be to get the network ad-free, so you don't have any ads on the webpage or on any of the podcasts, if you remember how things were before. Before we do go, though, I do want to mention our two sponsors, Doghouse Systems. From
Guys,
one to the next.
Remember, we want to get rid of these commercial messages. We don't want to have anything to do with our sponsors. Speaking of sponsors...
That's untrue. because I am going to have my next computer is guaranteed to be a Doghouse Systems because I love them. They are fantastic. If you go to doghousesystems.com, you can double your RAM by using the coupon code MMO Reporter, and of course going to audibletrial.com/MMO Reporter. That'll get you a 1-month subscription to their one audiobook a month club for free, and you can cancel anytime and keep that audiobook forever. So go check both of those out. Bill, people want to contact us. How can they do that?
Well, they can head on over to MMOReporter.com to get to the central hub of MMO Reporter, as well as all of our partner podcasts and other podcasts on the network with us. You can send us an email at mmo.reporter@gmail.com. You can find us over on Facebook, facebook.com/MMO Reporter. You can tweet at any one of us, either at MMO_Reporter for Chris, at Harry Hall for Harry, at Leonor for Leonor, or at MMO Bill for yours truly. You can give us a call at 616-666-6778, or click on the widget on the right side of the aforementioned MMOReporter.com. Head over to youtube.com/user/MMO Reporter Network for video versions of all of our podcasts, as well as play sessions and previous PAX coverage and all kinds of other good stuff that we put up for videos. And finally, as your intrepid host mentioned just a minute ago, head over to patreon.com/MMO Reporter to contribute if you would like us to continue making the MMO Reporter goodness for you.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Bill. It's been a fantastic show. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And thanks, Harry. As always, a pleasure to have you get up so early to record with us.
It was fun.
It was a lot of fun. And thanks to everyone who downloads the podcast. I mean, you are the reason why we do this. We love recording and talking about MMOs for you. So thanks for downloading the podcast. We hope that you download the podcast again next week. But most importantly, we hope to see you in game. Don't
forget about your ults you need to cherish. Each and every little character you've got, no matter what level they're at. Don't forget about your ults.